Hey, what's up, Warriors? Welcome back to week 4 of SAT preparation and advisory. Today we're going to cover 2 topics, dual text and punctuation. Before we get started, I wanted to show you a new feature available on Quizzes. So with the whiteboard feature, you can practice highlighting any questions. So to begin, dual text questions fall into the reading category. Today we're going to look at the basic approach for these questions, learn how to identify and highlight claims in the text, and then differentiate between points of view. The first is that the combined text will not exceed 150 words. So although these are probably the longest or the lengthiest texts that you'll read, they won't be more than 150 words. And they're going to cover topics like natural science and social science. So the reading basic approach is the same as all reading basic approaches, with a couple of things to note for dual text questions. So first, as you read, you want to highlight the person or group in text 2 that will be responding to a claim or idea from text 1. So the traps here are going to be opposites, beyond the text, and half right. Dual text questions are going to ask you to consider the relationship between a pair of texts by examining the interactions between the texts. Understanding what interactions are possible is the key to establishing the relationship between the texts and apply POE. If the question is asking for a response, the person or group from one text will likely do one of the following. They will support the claim or idea from the other text. They will contradict. So both of these responses or pieces of evidence we saw in the purpose lesson last week. However, the difference here is that they could also do a combination. So they might support one part or of the argument and then oppose another aspect of it. So here's an example of what it would look like if we are seeing something contradicted in a sentence. So if the sentence began with many artists get freelance work by offering a sample composition for free, which answer would complete the sentence by contradicting it? But they expect to be compensated if multiple pieces are requested, and this can lead to exposure, which is worth more to the artist than money, or as discussions of price at the outset of a relationship can discourage potential employers. So on this one, A is going to contradict the statement that is being made. And we know this because it is going against what is initially said by about the artists, like the amount of compensation. And then it is... Also, we see a transition word, but. So the question reads, based on the text, how would the author of text 2 most likely respond to the claims of the author of text 1? So we're looking for what the author is saying in both texts and the claims being made in 2 versus 1. So now reading, and dual text is the only time you're going to see more than one text being referred to in the question. So that's how you identify the question type. Text 1 reads, Andalusian is a dialect of Spanish rather than its own unique language. So right there, we want to highlight because that is what the author is claiming. The dialect shares fundamental characteristics with traditional Spanish, such as the same word for the second person, plural informal subject pronoun, and the same pronunciation for certain letter sounds. The push to define Andalusian as its own language is largely driven by those focused on preserving their own culture rather than by those focused on proper categorization of languages. And text number 2 says Andalusian is a unique series of patterns and words that deserve recognition as its own language. Many sounds that are differentiated in Spanish have been merged into single unique sounds in Andalusian. Speakers of Andalusian use different object pronouns, different verb forms, and different gender forms to craft their spoken word. Andalusian also uses many unique words not found in the Spanish dictionary. As it's written, we may note that the author of text 2 would contradict the author, some parts of what the author of text 1 is saying, that Andalusian is its own language, rather than a language that is a dialect of another language. And so looking at the answer choices, A says emphasizing that Andalusian features distinctive grammar and sounds even if the language shares some similarities with Spanish. B, by stating that a person who speaks Andalusian will also be able to understand Spanish. Beyond the text, because the author is mainly highlighting the differences rather than the similarities. By clarifying that Andalusian is much more challenging language to master than Spanish. Beyond the text, maybe half right, although it's like completely different, saying that it would be more challenging. We don't say that comparison. By agreeing that most linguists don't think differences between sounds and other word types are significant. That's irrelevant. That was not mentioned. The vocabulary words of the week are retain, which is to keep possession of. So I retain my charger every day. And the second word is undermine, so to weaken or lessen the effective. Third is to repudiate, which is to refuse to accept. I'm not sure about that one. Come up with your own example for that.